Well, you were just telling me that you weren't there when...
I was not on board the ship when it hit. I got on after it was hit.
How soon after, like a few days after?
Oh, no. They were back over in the Philippines, and that's when I boarded the ship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I only being 18 years of age at the time, I really relish these guys because they really took me under their wing. And Noble Brewington was one of the fellows that I really latched on to. And John L. Higdon and George Roberts. Higdon's still alive, but George he died years ago. But
tell me a little bit more about Mr. Brewington.
He's probably one of the most gentle individuals I've ever known in my life. And a true, what they say, a gentleman. He was a true gentleman. And I hadn't seen him after the war was over. And I met him in Cleveland for the first time. That was in 1990 or 91. And he came over to me as if we had just left each other the day before. And all these years had gone by, and it was like none of these years, they had all disappeared. And it was really great to see him. It's great to see all the guys, really. I enjoyed every single one of them, and they taught me an awful lot in my life. You know, when you're young, you've got a lot of craziness in you, and they helped me, even though they were only a couple of years older than me. They helped me really get my life focused, and I've never forgotten that. And I've always told them every time I come back, I said, you know, you guys, even though every once in a while they're disappearing one by one, but I still relish all those times together out there. We were really bonded. And the signal gang and the radio gang and the radar people and the yeomen were pretty close to each other. Yeah.
Tell me about did you have the first reunion?
No, I missed that. The first one I went to was in Cleveland.
Okay, tell me about that.
And to me, it was something I had been waiting for ever since I got out of the service. I kept looking and wondering when we were going to have a reunion. And I happened to see it in a Legion magazine that the Suwannee was going to have a reunion in Cleveland. And I said to my wife, I said, we're going there. So we were going out to see my daughters out in Minnesota. And on the way back, we were going to stop. We planned it so we would stop off at Cleveland just around when the time was for the reunion. And it was one of the best reunions as far as getting all the people together. And it was the last time, I think, that we got everybody that I can remember, although I think probably Bremerton was the last one. That was the next year after Cleveland. It was the last time we had, I believe, the biggest group of signalmen together at one time. And since then, one by one, they've, disappeared and gone on to the good Lord.
Tell me about some of the names that were mentioned at the memorial service this evening. I know Mr. Brewington passed away.
Yes, he did.
Just a few years ago.
Yes.
Did you?
I knew
did
Eric.
He tell you about? You knew Eric Kitzman.
Yep.
Tell me about him.
Fine individual. He. I didn't know him when I was on board ship, but when I came and joined the Suwannee reunion, I mean, he came up to me and welcomed me in, and it was like we were all one big family. And he made everybody feel that way. He was a true leader as far as the reunion was concerned. I'm going to be greatly missed. greatly missed. Yeah. But some of the other men, I mean, I didn't know any of these fellows that lost their lives, but as far as I'm concerned, you know, I think about them all the time, because, you know, for the grace of God, I could have been there too, you know. And I've heard stories about the people on board the ship when that got hit, and believe me, every single one was a hero, just as the photographer said tonight. He says everybody was a hero, and I believe that sincerely, because every one of them did their job and more. But when I was on a ship, the first, I remember they told me, stay away from the flight deck. Don't get up near the flight deck. Well, I was being strikered as a signalman, and we were up on the flight deck. And the first plane I ever saw land on the Suwannee crashed right above my head. And I said, oh my God, I said, now I know what they're talking about. And so after that, when they were landing aircraft, I was always made sure I was somewhere that I was supposed to be and out of the way. But I saw a lot of activity on the Suwannee, landing planes, taking planes off, and everybody did their jobs superbly. It was amazing, really.
That's what we're getting out of all of these.
I used to hang around with the radio men a lot too, because we were together, you know. And, I had one fellow, Bob Delatuso, who I can't get to any of these reunions because he's got a fear of flying. But he was one of the guys that, he just amazed me. He could have music going in one ear, code going in the other ear. He's typing away and talking to me and horsing around, sending messages to me on air, and then quick catch up, you know. He's amazing. But there's things like that these fellas, there's something else, really. And had a lot of fun and a lot of camaraderie that I will never, ever, I would never, ever trade it in for millions of dollars, just knowing all those fellas.
Tell me about one of the fun stories that we can talk
Well,
about in the family.
Yeah, the funniest story, when I first got on the Suwannee, we came up and we were on the quarterdeck, and we were told, now, we're going to call your name. When you hear your name called, report up here, and we'll assign you. So I said, okay. So I started wandering around the ship, and I wandered around the ship, and got chow time. I went down there, had chow, and came back, and I didn't hear nobody call my name that night. I didn't have a place to sleep, so I took my mattress and I laid it out on a paravane deck, which was down below, and I just laid on top of there, and I slept all night, got up in the morning, packed everything up, went and had breakfast, and I roamed the ship, and I never heard my name called. I guess I did this for about 3 days. Finally, one day I was on the fantail and I heard, Pelcher, Seaman First Class, report to the quarterdeck immediately. I quick went up there. Well, the chief MA was up there, and he was so wild. And he thought he says, we've been calling your name for 3 days now. Where have you been? I says, right here. I've been walking around the ship. Well, he didn't take that too kindly, and he says, come with me. And he took me down to his stateroom, and he had a bucket of light green paint and a paintbrush, and he says, I want you to paint my entire room. I said, okay. So he left, and I started painting. And I painted, and I painted, and I painted, and I painted everything light green, including his wife's picture and everything else that he had on there. He came back, and he walked in there, and he saw it. He threw me out, and I never had a run-in with that guy again. Never. But I look back at that, I laugh every time I think about it. But that's some of it. And then we were in Nagasaki when we first went in there, and they had anchor watches. And at that particular time, I wasn't on the signal bridge, I was on the deck gang. So they came up to me one night and they said, okay, you're on anchor watch tonight from 12 till 4. Okay. So they handed me a rifle and they said, if anybody comes up that anchor, shoot him. Okay. And they had a motor whaleboat going around the Suwannee all night long, just going around, around, around. They had 3 men on that and with a machine gun. And because they figured the Japanese are going to try to sabotage us while we're in there. And I'm thinking to myself, if somebody comes up that anchor, nobody's even shown me how to even shoot this gun, So luckily nobody came up the anchor and everything was fine. But I've never forgotten that. And then I've never forgotten the devastation that was in that city. I mean, I could not believe that anything, it literally pulverized the city itself. There was nothing left. And I've never lost that view in my head. It's there and it probably always will be. But I was climbing through some of the wreckage and I found some papers. I found a pad, all in Japanese. I found what looked like plans. They're all Japanese. I folded them up and stuck them in my jumper and took them back to the ship and eventually brought them home. And they've been sitting in a little box for all these years. This past spring, my daughter out in Wisconsin called me to tell me they were going to have a Japanese girl coming over and staying with them for 2 weeks. I said, oh, Dad, you know where she's from? I said, no. She said, from Nagasaki. I got goosebumps right up my back. I said, no kidding. He says, yeah. I said, I'm going to send you some papers. Find out what they mean. I have no idea what they mean. It's something I picked out of some wreckage over in Nagasaki in 1945. So I sent them out to her. The girl looked them over and read them all and sent me back. One was an order, a pad of, as if it was a requisition pad. If you wanted to order something, you made out this pad and ordered whatever you had to order. And then the plans, one was how to make alcohol, and the other was how to make synthetic oil. But I thought that was quite interesting, and after all these years, for something like this to just pop up. Some of the other stories I'll tell you, we came into San Diego, and coming in, I know we had to unload everything that we had on board, all ammunition, all food. We had sides of beef. Everything had to go overboard, and it was all dumped into the Pacific Ocean, including gasoline that we had on board. You couldn't come into port. And I said, boy, when they talked about war being wasteful, I said, it sure is. Well, we came into San Diego, and I always remember this to this day. There was a girl in a blue dress on the pier singing, "It's Been a Long, Long Time." We hadn't even come up to put the lines over, and guys were jumping off the flight deck into the water, which I thought was absolutely crazy. But we got in there, and the first thing I could get over on the onto the land off the ship, the first thing I did is I went into the ship store and had a chocolate milkshake. I'll tell you, it was like nothing I've ever tasted before. But and fellows on the signal bridge, we were trying to signal over to there was some girls over on an office building trying to make dates. It didn't work. Yeah.
Tell me what you would like for people to remember about your service and the service of these other crewmen. in the
I
war.
think a lot of the people in this country, because it happened over 50 years ago, have lost track of the patriotism that we were taught from children. And I don't think that there is the patriotism today. I'm hoping that if anything ever happened, everybody would run the way they did when World War II started. I mean, I was only 14 at the time. I wanted to enlist the next day. But everybody did. And what happened was that not only the people enlisted, but people joined hands and worked and collected everything they could in the war effort, and it was a unified operation with fellows going overseas and the people at home all pulling together that really brought victory as we know it today. And I'm always hopeful that if the call ever came out again, that everybody would do the same thing. I really and truly believe that. Sometimes I hear some people talk and say, you know, it'll never happen again. And I say never, you know. I'm hoping it will never happen again, but they said that after World War I. And then Korea came and Vietnam, and it's just been one little skirmish after another. And I hope it will never ever have the one that another World War III. I never want to see that, and I don't want my children or my children's children to see it. But I hope if it ever came to bear that they would join hands and pull the way they did in World War II.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to help what little I can give you, but it was a great life for me. And I wouldn't trade it for $1 million. No. It made a better man out of me. Truly. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.